Hey guys, welcome back to Around the Campfire with AmeriCamp, the ultimate summer camp podcast. I am Caitlin, the marketing executive for AmeriCamp. This is actually my first time on the podcast, so very exciting. Woo for me. Woo! Thank you. Today we are talking to Zara, who went to camp for 2 summers so far, was a brand ambassador for us, and is now working full-time as part of the AmeriCamp team, which is very exciting. Hello, Zara.
Hello, thanks for having me.
Yeah, Zara, woo! If you want to introduce yourself a little bit and tell people sort of what camp you went to.
Yeah, so as Caitlin said, I went to camp for my first summer in 2022, and then I went back again to the same camp. It was Camp Towanda up in North Pennsylvania. I went back there again last summer. As you said, I was a brand ambassador last year, went back to camp again, and then came back after this summer and decided that I wanted to come work for AmeriCamp, so now I'm part of the operations team here.
So how was your summer overall? What was your favourite part?
Obviously the fact that I went back to the same camp, I feel like it speaks volumes, but I loved the whole experience of it. I think summer camp is great. As a person that, has so much energy all the time and is just bouncing off the walls, I feel like, as everyone at the AmeriCamp team kind of knows, I feel like I fit right in camp. Everyone's so friendly and accepting, whether that's the other counsellors, the campers. It was just such a nice environment to be in at all times. I guess my favourite part would probably be something that we do. I don't know if other camps do this. I think quite a few of them do, but something called Girls Sing, which is where all of girls camp, some of the age groups, they partner up with other age groups. Some of them do it on their own, but they'll have a theme that they have each summer. And they will perform these songs and dances that are about camp, but to do with the themes. And, they'll make artwork for it, and they'll all dress up, and we all go down to the field house. And boys camp come and watch, and they cheer on, the girls that are in their respective age groups. Yeah, and they perform in front of everyone. And it's just so fun. You've got 8-year-olds all the way up to 16-year-olds performing in front of everyone, and just having such a fun time. And the campers love it so much, the counsellors love it even more, and it's my favourite day of the summer. Both years it's been knockout. I loved it.
That's so lovely. I think hearing stories just in general of other people's camp experience just makes you miss it, so that's really nice to hear. Did you sort of have any expectations coming into, doing AmeriCamp and going to summer camp before you went?
I mean, I feel like it's the cliche that quite a lot of people say when they, want to go and work out at camps. But, I watched the films, the Parent Trap, Camp Rock, that really big film. And, I saw that and I was like, we don't have anything like that over here. These are Hollywood movies. Obviously, it's not going to be the exact same, but that was my kind of reference for camp. And to be fair, it wasn't actually far from it, the general experience. I mean, I don't know what you thought as well. I haven't gone to camp before, but it was so American. Maybe I didn't expect it to be as American. Mm-hmm. The food, the cheering, it was everything that I did kind of think it was going to be and more, mm-hmm. In the best way possible, to be honest. I feel like I definitely went into it thinking who else is going to be there? Are they going to be kind of like me? Are they going to enjoy the same things as me? Am I going to, the classic, you're going to make friends? But I think if you're going to summer camp, then it's for a particular reason. It's because you're, quite an outgoing person. You want to get to know people. You want to get stuck into stuff and make friends pretty quickly, I reckon.
Yeah, absolutely. I think a lot of people are kind of worried before going to camp if they will make friends. And I think even instantly you just gel with people because mm-hmm. the people that are going to camp will be similar people to you, and everyone is sort of in the same boat. A lot of people are 18, 19, they're just traveling for the first time and they are nervous as well. So I think if you just know that everyone else is in the same boat, you'll just gel with people instantly. And I think orientation helps a lot with that as well. That first week or 2 at camp, just chatting with people and just getting to know them on a personal level is really helpful. So obviously, as we said before, you have gone through AmeriCamp to go to camp, and then obviously you've been a brand ambassador. So how did you sort of find getting hired with AmeriCamp and finding your sort of dream camp with Towanda? How was the whole hiring experience for you?
Yeah, so I mean, I think it was pretty straightforward, to be honest. I mean, I've as you've said, with like everything, I've had the applicant experience of it all, and now I'm behind the scenes as well, so I have a pretty good knowledge of it all. But I think being an applicant first and foremost, everything was very much laid out in front of me. I never kind of was thinking, what am I supposed to be doing next? There was always really good communication. You know, my application coordinator, Rob, he was always super helpful with telling me what to do. I will say as well, the big thing that I really worried about was the visa appointment at the embassy, which I know some people get very stressed with because, you know, when are you going to go to an embassy, realistically? Like, it's such an odd thing. Like, you wouldn't need to do that in most cases. I actually ended up not taking one of my main forms, my DS 2019. I left it on my desk at home, and I walked through the front door, and you go into this like queue, and they're going, okay, you need your SEVISH registration fee, like receipt, or the form that you need for that. You need your DS 2019, you need your passport, and then a couple other things. That, you know, you're told what to take, and it says it in black and white in several emails that you get sent. I think I got a text with it. I got the most reminders you could possibly have to take this form, and she said the words, and instantly in my head I thought, that is on my desk at home.
Oh my god!
And it just flashed in front of my head. But, you know, all the people at the embassy, they were super nice to me. They literally processed my visa and it was fine. They just said that I had to send my passport down to them and that they were going to redo it when they had the form in front of them. So it was all good. It got sorted. Yeah, probably stressed, as I mentioned, Rob out a bit when I texted him saying, Rob, I forgot my form. But it was all good in the end. So I think all of the stress in the hiring process was definitely created by myself. So biggest piece of advice, I'd say just make sure you read all the instructions that we give you, because they're there to help you out for sure. With like the actual camp hiring process, it was pretty straightforward, to be honest. I mean, I went to camp with a friend, so we were kind of wanting to go to the same camp, but we weren't too fussed if we didn't, as long as we were, I don't know, like near to each other. But my friend actually got matched on the online hiring portal with Camp Towanda. She had, you know, an online interview with them and said, it's the nicest guy I've ever met. He was so lovely. We need to go to this camp. So I then emailed the camp and said, hey, I've just heard about you. I don't know where from, but we were trying to pretend that we weren't friends, which was just so obvious when you met us. It was just so clear that we were friends. I think we did our interviews with the camp, both of us in the same place. So I bet he was like behind the camera thinking, I've seen this background before. But, you know, all went well. And 2 summers later, still loving it just as much.
Hell yeah. That's amazing. That's so nice to hear. So sort of just bringing it back to Towanda and the camp experience in itself. I know you sort of touched on it briefly with the whole sing situation, but what is your favourite camp tradition?
It's always such a difficult question, that one. There's so much stuff that goes on at camp, like even the little things like milk and cookies every night. I love that. Getting chocolate milk before bed, like it was amazing. But I would say that my favourite tradition is to do with some camps call it colour war, but my camp called it Olympics, which is like a week at the end of camp, towards the end, where the camp will be split in half, and it'll be, at my camp it was the blue team and the red team. At other camps I know it's to do with like your camp colours, so it might be like a green and yellow team or whatever, but you'll have a theme each year for Olympics, and that will be, so I don't know, what was it last year? It was the 2023 summer that I went. It was the Red Raiders versus the Blue Spies. And they've had like aliens and monsters. They've had Yankees and Knicks. Like every year it can be just something so random. But there's so much like lore around Olympics. And, you know, your campers will be guessing all summer long what they think those themes are going to be, and they're going to be like, I only want to be on the red team, or I only want to be on the blue team. I've now been on the red team for 2 summers, so I am a red team girl. I would hate to be on the blue team, but the biggest thing with that is that when it's leading up to Olympics and everyone's guessing what it's going to be, that there's a tradition that the oldest boys on boys' side, the club boys who are like 15 and 16, they come up with these things called fake outs, because when the themes are announced for Olympics, it's called Olympic breakout. So they do something called a fake out, which is where they'll come up with 2 random themes and it'll be this massive thing. So we did it at Sunday barbecue one time this summer, and this like siren goes off and they play this song. It's Is There Anybody Out There by Pink Floyd, and it's the most ominous and like creepy song, but it's like, is there anybody out there? And all the kids, I remember the first time this happened, actually in my first summer, it was in like the dining hall at lunch, and all the kids went crazy. And I was like, what is this song? Like, what is going on? And everyone just ran. And I just sat there thinking, where am I supposed to go? And they like announce on the speaker, they tell you to either go to like main basketball or main soccer or Skyview tennis. And everybody runs there, and they'll like start announcing Olympics, and they do the themes, and they go, it's the blue this and the red that. And then they'll announce like the generals and the camper captains who are like in charge of the teams. And then while they're doing all of that, at some point the club boys will then just scream all at once, fake out, and everyone's like, oh, it's not Olympics. And just that whole situation with how it builds up to the actual breakout, it's just so fun because it has you literally on the edge of your seat. I know for a week at camp both summers, we were walking around, and Crocs are like a massive thing at camp. Every time you left the bunk, everyone would go, right, Crocs in sports mode, just in case it was Olympic breakout. Because if you're at the barbecue on this hill over there, and then they tell you to go to the other side of camp, you are running. Mm-hmm. Like, I completely left my campers. Like, this siren would go off and they'd tell me where to run, and I'd be there, and I'd see my campers there. Like, they were getting there themselves. I was just as excited as they were for all of it. But definitely all of like the lore around Olympics and like the guessing of what it's going to be, it's just so exciting and so fun, and the counsellors get into it just as much as the campers do. Mm-hmm. So I think anything to do with Olympics, to be honest, is
100%. I think it's just so fun. You have 3 or 4 days of just absolute chaos. Yeah. The whole camp has just completely changed. Everyone is super competitive, but it's really fun just to see the kids love it so much. Obviously, the kids have been doing this most of their life so far, but it just never seems to get old. And I think that's really sweet, is they just love it.
100%.
And they're always talking about when's breakout going to be, and it's just like, and then they ask you and you're like, I don't know.
Literally.
They're like, is it fake out tonight? I'm like, I don't know. I can't help you with this.
I got asked so much. I mean, I think one time in my first summer, all of my kids, instead of putting their pajamas on at night, because they'd convinced themselves, and so my first summer, for a bit of context, I was with the oldest girls, so they'd been there for, some of them, 8 summers. Mm-hmm. They were veterans at this kind of stuff, and they'd convinced themselves, based on like their really intense like calculations and the little things that they'd seen going on around camp, they were convinced that it was going to be an early morning breakout, because that had happened like once in the 8 years that they'd been there. And at like 5 a.m. they were all woken up, and there was like elephants on girls' camp or something, and it was like circus themed. So they'd convinced themselves that that's what was happening. So they were all like, right, okay, everybody lay your Crocs out next to your bed. Go to sleep in like your sports bras and like an outfit. Don't go to sleep in your pajamas, because obviously the media team are taking loads of photos, and they were going, we don't want to be in our pajamas at breakout. So, and it's just all of it. They genuinely thought that we all knew as well, because they're going, just tell us so that we can be prepared. I'm like, I am none the wiser, but it's so exciting.
Yeah, 100%. I think a lot of the kids just assume that they know what's happening, and the times I've been, I've never known what was going to happen. And this last summer at Camp IHC, for some reason, the kids convinced themselves that Taylor Swift was coming to camp and that she was going to do, the breakout and everything like that. And because somewhere in the office it said Taylor Swift on the calendar. Yeah. And then all of the kids were coming up, and they were like, is Taylor Swift coming? Is Taylor Swift coming? I was like, yep, she's coming. Like, get ready. Just like gaslighting these kids.
We had, this summer, we all convinced ourselves that it was going to, well, I convinced myself that it was Mario and Sonic themed.
Yeah.
And I went to my group leader morning meeting at the girls' shack, and we're all sat there, and we got our, what's the word, like schedule for the day. And we're all looking at it, and it looked like a really weird schedule. Like, it just didn't seem to look like a normal day. And we all kind of were looking at each other thinking, this isn't a real schedule. And we said to the girls' head counsellors, we were like, so Olympic breakout is today, isn't it? Because that's not a real schedule. And they said, no. And they knew all the answers. They were like, no. And they said, it's because of this and it's because of that. And they convinced us that it was a normal day. So I sat there and I went, oh, guys, I think it's going to be Mario Kart and Sonic themed. I said, all of like senior staff have golf carts at camp, And I was like, they're going to decorate the golf carts to be Mario Kart carts, and Sonic's going to come running, and this is going to happen, and that's going to happen. And the girls and counsellors were completely playing along with it. They were like, that sounds amazing. Yeah. And they just let me say this whole plan that I had. And then they were like, right, well, go off with your day then. And then we're there in our bunks doing cleanup time. And I'm sat there like planning for the day on my bunk. And then all of a sudden I just hear like screaming, and we had music really loud in the bunk, so we couldn't hear what was going on outside. And then suddenly someone runs in the bunk and goes, get outside. And I'm thinking, what's going on? Who's like, is there an animal in the bunk? Like what? And we look outside and there are drones everywhere. There's drones circling boys camp and there's drones circling girls camp, and everyone is going berserk. Like no one knew what was happening. And then they go like, there's, I think it was something like a data leak or something. They were like, there's been a data leak. Everybody needs to head to main soccer. And we're like, right. And so luckily I had trainers on. So I was planned and prepared for this. And I've never ran so fast in my life, because at this point as well, we'd had 3 fake outs from the club boys. So you knew after that third one that it's probably going to be real breakout. So we're running and I'm like sprinting to soccer, and I get there and I look around and there's like a couple little things where you can sort of, I mean, you think you can tell if it's a real one, but really you never know. But I looked around and I thought, yeah, this is the real one. And then we had this guy called Hank Azaria, who he plays Moe in The Simpsons, and
Really?
Yeah, so he grew up at my camp. He was a camper at my camp, and now his kid used to go there. His kid doesn't go there anymore, but he's like alumni of the camp. So every year he will come back and be a judgy for Olympics, which is like such another sweet thing about Olympics, that all the alumni come back and they get involved in it, and it's just that real like family feeling of it. But so he was there for Olympics. We all knew that he was on camp. And he comes running out of the trees next to soccer in this Indiana Jones outfit, which was borrowed from like a set in Hollywood, it turned out. Like he like borrowed it from someone. I don't know where he got it from. But yeah, he like runs out and he's being chased by this huge boulder. And I'm thinking, right, if they've got Hank Azaria of all people running around in like a leather jacket with a whip, then it must be real. And yeah, it was wild.
Yeah.
But so the Taylor Swift thing doesn't surprise me one bit.
No.
Especially with the whole like Speak Now album this summer.
No, exactly. And, you know, she was on tour as well.
Yeah.
So all the kids were like, because I was media, so I had access to my phone, and all the kids were like, can you see where she is? Like, what city is she in? Like, and then, you know, one of the nights she had a break. So it was like, oh, she's coming to Pennsylvania. She's coming to camp. She's going to do breakout. And one of the fake outs was one of the program staff dressed up as Taylor Swift, and they played a Taylor Swift song at Flagpole, and then all the girls were just convinced that Taylor Swift was there. And then she came out and performed this song. Obviously it wasn't Taylor Swift. But I genuinely think that the people who plan Olympics and the people that know when breakouts are going to happen is like, they should be in the FBI.
Honestly.
Never known anything quite like it.
No.
So secret.
Yeah, no one ever knows. And the silly thing is, they drop Easter. I don't know if at your camp it's the same, but they drop little Easter eggs all summer about what the themes are going to be. So last year it was circus themed, and it was the red ringleaders and the blue performers. And we'd had the circus like came and it cancelled because of something to do with COVID halfway through the summer. And then they kept pushing it back, and everyone was just thinking, this whole circus thing seems a bit sus. And then the circus came and they were performing at Even Activity, and then breakout happened and there was fireworks and it was crazy. But this summer, I don't know why we could convince ourselves that it was Mario Kart. And there was also a Disney thing as well, because it was the camp's 101st year of like running. So there was loads of stuff that was themed around the Dalmatians. So we were also convinced that it could have been Disney themed. But they literally took us to see the new Indiana Jones film halfway through the summer, and no one picked up on that at all. Yeah. And then it was like Red Raiders, and it was like literally Indiana Jones themed. We were like, oh, it was right in front of us the whole time and no one clocked it.
No, it's amazing.
But I would love to be behind the scenes planning it, but I could not keep my mouth shut to keep
100%.
it quiet. Like, no one ever tell me anything serious to do with like stuff like that at camp, because I will end up ruining it accidentally because I just speak too much.
100%. I'll tell one person and then that's it. It's gotten around the whole of camp.
Literally.
But yeah, no, that's amazing. That's really nice to hear. Obviously, Olympics is insane. Like, if you're going to camp in the summer, then just look forward to Olympics or Colour War or both. My camp did both, which is fun. So that, you know, there's a lot happening all throughout the summer. It's not just the same thing every single day. There's so many events happening, you know. You got 4th of July as well, which is always really fun.
So fun.
Very, very American.
So American. We do a like world record thing every summer for 4th of July.
What do you mean?
They like break they break a world record every year at camp. So but it's the most niche world records you've ever heard of. So this year our camp director Mitch, we filled up a kayak like with the most ice cream ever and sprinkles. Like we made the like biggest ice cream sundae in a kayak ever. Like it's so niche. It's silly how niche it is, but so they get all the kids and it's like something to do with the amount of people that are contributing it. So all the kids come and put ice cream in the kayak and then they like put the camp director in the kayak and like poured a load of ice cream on and stuff. It was so American.
Yeah, I love that. That's little things like that just make the whole experience so special. So yeah, just to sort of go towards the end of camp, I suppose. Obviously with AmeriCamp, after you finish your time at your camp, you get 30 days to travel around the US. You also have 30 days before, which a lot of people don't know. So where did you sort of travel after camp, if you did travel?
Yeah, I mean, I traveled both summers. First summer, I did a bit of a smaller travel sort of stint, I guess, but still got to see so many places. I think it's quite similar. I mean, I don't know if yourself, we were obviously last summer pretty much down the road from each other, but I know quite a lot of the camps up in Pennsylvania, they like drop their staff in New York after camp. So both summers I've been to New York City straight after camp and done sort of like after party with everyone from camp, and like everyone will stay in their own Airbnbs or hostels or something, but then we all go and like sometimes you'll go for like a big meal or you'll go to like a bar and everybody just gets to just like go and kind of celebrate the end of summer together, which is really nice, and then everyone sort of goes their own separate ways. But so I've done that like both summers, and we stayed in a hostel the first summer, which was actually right next to Central Park, and it was so cheap it was kind of ridiculous. But that was the best hostel I've ever been in. It was so fun. But then after New York in my first summer, I went down to Florida because I had a friend that was staying there, so went and visited her and got sort of like the local experience, which was quite nice. And then I went to Charlotte in North Carolina, and we got a massive lake house because I'm fortunate to have a birthday in the summer. So we went and stayed in this big lake house for my birthday, which was really nice. And we actually didn't do like many things outside at that point because we were so tired after camp.
100%, yeah.
That we actually just used it to pretty much just sit in the house. Like we got our money's worth out of this house. Mm-hmm. And we sat and we watched like Disney Channel films. Like we watched Camp Rock and we watched Parent Trap. We were like, yeah, look, that looks like our camp. And that's what happened at our camp and stuff like that.
100%. I think a lot of people don't realise that when you finish camp, you will be very tired.
Exhausted.
And just bear that in mind when you're booking stuff. Like, you don't want to go straight from camp into like a 7-day city tour around New York and like Boston, because you will be exhausted because your body will have time to just rest.
Yeah.
So just bear that in mind. Go somewhere nice. Go somewhere like you can just chill out for a few days, and then if you want to like travel, do that. Unless you're built different.
Yeah.
Which maybe you are, but I'm not built different. So I just, bear that in mind when you are traveling after camp.
I would 100% agree. I mean, obviously going to New York straight from camp is super fun and games, and honestly, New York City is my favorite place in the entire world. Mm-hmm. So I would still have call it like camp energy because I was in New York City and I'm running around like a kid in a toy store. But I would definitely say, I don't know, schedule in like a beach trip, like at the start, because then you're not feeling like you're missing out. Like if you're in a city, you need to be get up and go and you want to go see everything because you don't want to waste your time. But if you go to like a lake house or a beach kind of area, then you can actually just sit there and do nothing all day, but it feels like you're doing something because you sat on the beach.
100%.
You know?
Yeah.
Like this summer when I left New York, I went straight over to LA because one of my friends that was actually my group leader last summer, she lives over there. So I went and stayed with her, and whilst we were doing like kind of running around LA and she was showing me all the sights, I was also sort of there to see her. So we did like chill at the beach and we chilled in her house quite a lot and we were just catching up, but it was also good because it was like the rest and recuperation time then.
Yeah, I think that is really important. My first summer at camp, I went to Florida after like a few days up in New York just to sort of chill out, and I was there for like 4 or 5 days total, and it was just the nicest time. You can just eat good, lie in the sun, and just sort of think about what's just happened as well and digest it.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot happening in the summer, and obviously it's so go, go, go. But then when you finish, you're like, wait, what just happened?
Literally. You need like decompression time for
100%.
sure. Yeah, definitely. Like the rest time and sleeping in a real bed as well. Really cherish that time when you're going to come home after traveling and you'll be back in your own bed. But yeah, I definitely looked forward to the nice mattresses when I was traveling afterwards.
Yeah, I think one thing I also took for granted was my first camp, the cabin that we were in, we didn't really have much hot water. So all the showers were like lukewarm at best, but they were cold.
Yeah.
So like being able to leave camp and then have a good shower or like a bath was like, oh my God, it's like a luxury. But when you're like at camp, it really doesn't matter. Like those things don't matter.
Exactly.
Like it's just the way it is. It's just like, but little things like that you don't realize until you go traveling afterwards.
Exactly. But yeah, as you say, when you're at camp, you don't mind. Like all those little things, like we weren't allowed to have straighteners and hairdryers at camp because it would cut a fuse. And all those little things, you think it's going to be a really big issue because like, but my hair's going to look bad. But then you realize after 2 days that everyone looks just as like bad.
None of them things matter, like materialistic things or like how you look or things like that, because as I said, everyone's in the same boat. Everyone looks like scruffy, not scruffy, but you know what I mean, like camp attire. And all of those sort of things that you think you need to look good, just like no one cares about.
It kind of ties into how just like authentic the camp experience is with that.
Yeah.
Like everyone is just 100% them true selves in how they act. Like camp brings out like the best of like your personality, but also like you're not like running around in like makeup with like curled hair or something, you know, like it's just you and like your rugged self.
100%. I think that's what's quite nice as well, is when you have kids that you're looking after, is them seeing the true you, and they see that you're, you know, who you are, and you don't have to hide behind makeup or look a certain way or anything like that. Especially for young girls, you know, with my perspective, it's like they see this and they're like, okay, maybe I don't need to have, you know, a full face of makeup or look a certain way to like look good and just like be accepted. So just to sort of round off, what would you say to anyone who's looking at doing AmeriCamp for the first time?
I feel like there's a lot of advice that you can give. The biggest bit that I would say is just throw yourself into everything possible. Whether that's like in orientation, like speaking to as many people as you can and just treating it like, I mean, if you've been to like university and you've done Freshers Week, treating it like Freshers Week and just like speaking to everyone you can, whether it's during Olympics, like doing the counselor games, whether it's, you know, like signing up to do the talent show or something, like you will get out of it what you put into it. So if you like do as much as you can, you will come out of it having had the best experience. Also just knowing that like, yeah, everyone's super high energy all the time and everyone like is having a great time, but if you're, you know, tired one day, that's okay. You don't need to, you know, put pressure on yourself to always be having like the most like high energy time, because we're all human. Everyone has their down days, everyone has their like tired days, so when you can rest, take the rest.
100%. Yeah,
like nights off, don't be leaving camp going crazy every night and going like, I don't know, out for the whole night. Like if you can get an early night, get an early night.
Yeah.
Because you'll need it.
Yeah, 100%. I think it is a big jump for people who haven't done anything like this before. Totally understandable, but it genuinely is the best thing you'll ever do. You will completely change as a person. I know I did personally, like pre-camp and post-camp Caitlin are two different people. And I've seen, you know, people, you know, friends and family who have done the program who are exactly the same. And it's just like, it's the best thing you'll ever do. You've just got to take that jump and just be like, okay, I'm just doing it, and then just go. guarantee you'll have the best time.
100%.
But yeah, thank you, Zara, for joining me today.
Thank you for having me
on the podcast.
Loved reminiscing.
It's nice, right?
If you want to have me again, I've got so many stories to tell. So
of course, we'll make a series out of it.
Of course.
But yeah, thank you guys for listening. If you want to hear anything in particular, just shoot us a message on Instagram or send us an email, anything. Just reach out, and if you want to see anything in particular, or if you want to join the podcast and have an episode, you're more than welcome to. We want to hear everyone's stories and about how camp is just the best thing in the world. But yeah, thank you for tuning in, and I will see you when I see you. Bye!
Bye!